UFC Fight Night Moicano versus Chris Duncan just took place, and this is my reaction to the entire card. There were 13 fights in total, 8 finishes. I went 7 for 13 on predictions this card. Starting with the main event though, Moicano beats Chris Duncan by submission in the second round. I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. I was the only person picking Moicano to win. Go and look at everybody else's predictions video. They were super confident that Chris Duncan was going to beat Moicano in this matchup. I never turned my back on the boy. Moicano has told us he can't afford to lose. Why do people not believe him? Moicano looked really good in this matchup. If you compare this fight to his last fight against Beneil Dariush, Moicano hurt Beneil Dariush in there, but in rounds 2 and 3, he really faded. Didn't look great, but in this matchup, he looked levels above Chris Duncan. And going into this fight, Chris Duncan was the fighter that was in form. He was on a good win streak, beating Terrence McKinney, Rebecca. He also beat Jordan Vucenic. So Chris Duncan definitely had the momentum on his side in this matchup, but Moicano shut everything down. Moicano really surprised me in this matchup, especially on the feet, because he looked really good in there, especially with the straight shots. His jab as well was really good in there. He was busting Chris Duncan up on the feet. What also surprised me was Moicano was the aggressor. He was the one that was taking space, having Chris Duncan use his lateral movement, be the one on the back foot. I didn't expect that. I thought Chris Duncan would have been aggressive in there, looking to break down Moicano as the fight goes on. But Moicano stood his base. Stand your base, mate. And was landing the straight 1-2 shots, busting Chris Duncan up. He also done a really good job of checking Chris Duncan's low kicks. Round 1, I thought Moicano won that round clearly. Then we go into round 2, and that's where Moicano starts teeing off on Chris Duncan. He drops Chris Duncan in the second round and then instantly goes to try and lock up a choke. That was another thing Moicano was doing really well, is he has a clear grappling advantage over Chris Duncan. I think everybody knew that going into this fight. And when Moicano did look to get the fight to the mat in round 1, it was with body locks, trying to get takedowns from the clinch. He wasn't shooting a single leg or a double leg because he knew, and everybody knows if you watch Chris Duncan, he has got a really good guillotine. So Moicano was smart enough to look to try and get a body lock takedown just to avoid that situation of trying to fight out of that guillotine attempt from Chris Duncan. But in round 2, he didn't even need to shoot for a takedown. He catches Chris Duncan with a 1-2 hook, hurts Chris Duncan, then instantly goes to the grappling, tries to get a front choke, ends up really quickly getting his way round to the back of Chris Duncan. There was a couple of times where it looked like Moicano was nearly about to finish, nearly about to get the choke in, but Chris Duncan was doing a good job of keeping the chin tucked, was only allowing Moicano to get the forearm across the face, which is still sore, but doesn't mean you instantly have to tap. Moicano was doing a good job of landing some ground and pound shots. Chris Duncan's face was a mess. It was completely busted up from the shots Moicano was landing on the feet. He then gets the body lock, goes to his back, and stays really patient with it. I was actually looking for Moicano at that point to then get up into the high top mount like we've seen in the Jalen Turner matchup or against Benoit Saint-Denis, because that's where Moicano can do a serious amount of damage on the ground. But instead, he chose to be patient, be on the back of Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan was doing an okay job at defending the hands, but he wasn't trying to get the body lock onto the right side. Moicano was able to land them pity-patter shots to the face and the body just to distract Chris Duncan. And then eventually he cinches up the rear naked choke and Chris Duncan is forced to tap. This was a really good performance from Moicano. I was picking Moicano to win this. I didn't expect him to win it that way. To be honest, I kind of expected Chris Duncan to win this matchup. I thought this fight card was that shit that my predictions video wouldn't really matter. I didn't think I was going to get as much views on it as I did, but I'm glad that Moicano ended up winning this matchup. And he looked really good in there. It's a shame for Chris Duncan. He was riding high on a good win streak. I thought he was good enough to be ranked. There are probably some ranked fighters that Chris Duncan can beat, but it is back to the drawing board in the unranked area of the lightweight division for Chris Duncan. And what's next for Moicano? Well, he solidifies himself. Unk still has it. Unk solidifies himself as still a top 15 contender in the UFC's lightweight division. Great win from Moicano. I don't know how he looked this good against Chris Duncan, but looked that bad against Beneil Dariush. Maybe it's because Beneil Dariush in his own right is just levels above Chris Duncan. Who knows? But we've got another Unk matchup in Beneil Dariush versus Quillan Salkhill. So we'll see how good Beneil Dariush looks in that matchup. But great win for Moicano. Into the co-main event, it's a women's fight. Nothing much really happened. Virna Jandiroba won. Again, I predicted this fight right. I thought she would have won by decision, although I was kind of skeptical because Tabitha Ritchie, she is going out with Callum Walsh, I believe, and that's the Irish boxer that Dana White goons over. So I thought if the fight was remotely close, they would have given it to Tabitha Ritchie, but instead Virna Jandiroba done enough to where the fight wasn't even really close. It was a clear win for Virna Jandiroba. Moving on to the feature fight, that was Abdul Rahman Yakayev taking on Branson Ribeiro. Abdul nearly got knocked out cold with a knee by Branson Ribeiro, and Ribeiro isn't that great, to be honest. With that being said, Abdul Rahman Yakayev got the win in the first round, but he almost got caught with a knee. He got caught with a couple of strikes on the feet. Some of his takedown entries weren't great. He dived like across the cage really low down to try and pick up, it wasn't even like an ankle lock, but he dived really low on the leg of Branson Ribeiro. Couldn't get that takedown. Eventually, for some reason, Branson Ribeiro threw a head kick. He did kind of land on Abdul Rahman Yakayev, but that's where Abdul was able to catch the kick, get the fight to the mat, and then get the submission pretty quickly. Good win for him. A lot of people are hyping this guy up. I do think he is arguably the best prospect right now in the light heavyweight division, but that isn't saying much because this division is ass. But his 2 fights in the UFC as of now haven't been against great levels of opposition. So let's see him kind of progress up properly now and make that next step so we can actually see, is this guy going to be top 15 level, or does he not got it? Does this guy not have the skills to pay the bills? Who knows? But anyway, another submission win. Yo, Ethan Ewing, is this guy the GOAT? No, serious question, is this guy the best fighter of all time? Now, for some reason, I picked Rafael Estevam. I thought Ethan Ewing was being really overhyped because of the Malcolm Wellmaker performance, and I just didn't think, well, Malcolm Wellmaker was that great. But in this matchup, Ethan Ewing looked really good. Yo, this guy's a better version of Petr Yan. Bruh. Is what this fight leads me to believe. Rafael Estevam, he is a flyweight, but he's beat the likes of Charles Johnson down there. The guy is allergic to making weight for fights in general. I mean, he missed weight so many times at flyweight. He then missed weight again for this matchup against Ethan Ewing. He was undefeated going into this fight. Very good grappler. I thought he was going to be able to utilize his grappling against Ethan Ewing in this matchup. That wasn't the case. Ewing showed really good takedown defense, but on the feet, the head movement, the combinations, he nearly finishes Estevam in the first round, has a really good second round, but the finishing sequence, that body shot that the guy landed, chef kiss. The body shot that he landed crippled Estevam in there. Great performance from Ewing. A lot of people are saying book him against Topuria, not Ilia Topuria, Alexandre Topuria. In the bantamweight division, a lot of people are hyping him up, saying that he needs to be shot right into the rankings. I don't know. That is a really impressive win to get. And obviously, he fraud checked Malcolm Wellmaker on 2 days' notice as well. So I think he maybe needs one more win before going into the rankings. But if you want to get him in the rankings, give him Chito Vera, because Chito Vera shouldn't even be in the rankings in the first place. So I'd be happy enough to see that matchup, to see Ewing make that jump and finally get Chito Vera out of the bantamweight rankings. He is the worst ranked fighter in the UFC. I don't know how we've sidetracked in the Chito Vera hate, but that's just the truth. Great performance though from Ethan Ewing. Did he win a bonus? No, I don't believe he got a bonus. Don't understand how he didn't get a bonus, but I know Tommy McMillan got a bonus over his win against Manola Zucchini. Zucchini hasn't fought in like 900 and something days. They said on broadcast we haven't seen him for a while. Tommy McMillan, car crash. That's what you're going to get out of this guy. Is he a world champion in the making? In my opinion, no. I think a lot of guys in the featherweight division would piece this guy up, like a Kevin Vallejos, a Gene Silva. He is tough. He does tuck his chin, but he's too scrappy. He's too open, and those more well-polished power strikers in the featherweight division will knock him out, in my opinion. Although Tommy McMillan, he isn't just a scrapper on the feet. He can grapple. He does have a good grappling background, but in this matchup, he was looking to go out there and make a name for himself, and that's what he done. This was a fun fight while it lasted. Tommy McMillan just kind of threw himself into Manola Zucchini at times, trying to snap him down with a collar tie, looking to land that knee. A lot of arm punches, just like winging shots in there, but it worked. It worked. The car crash fight style of Tommy McMillan, sorry, I don't know why I read that wrong there. It worked in this matchup. He got the finish in the first round and also had that Drake speech at the end. They are going to be able to make a name out of Tommy McMillan. He is going to be one of those stars that will build a good fan base. Just the problem with him is, I think as the level increases and he gets close to that ranked status in the UFC's featherweight division, like a Steve Garcia in there as well, I think Tommy McMillan, I don't think he's going to go on and have the success like his other teammate Sean O'Malley has. But nonetheless, really fun fight, good win. Jose Delano versus Roberto Richala. This was an okay fight. I thought Delano was going to win this fight, and that's exactly what happened. Nothing really crazy happened. Good win for Delano. Moving on, we have got Guillermo Pat against Thomas Peterson. A guy that I thought could have been a prospect. I wasn't putting all my eggs in one basket saying Pat was going to be the next heavyweight champion, but he was undefeated. You kind of have to back these guys in the heavyweight division because it's that bad, but Thomas Peterson, he ends up getting the job done in this matchup by majority decision. Good win for Thomas Peterson. People forget, man, he took down Shamil Gaziev. This guy's no joke. Alessandro Costa against Stuart Nickel. Good win for Costa. I predicted him to win this fight by finish. What time is it? Oh, I need to hurry this up. My dinner's ready. But Costa, good win in there. He got a performance bonus. I don't know how, considering Stuart Nickel doesn't even have a win in the UFC yet. But nonetheless, good finish for him. This is the problem with this card. It was so shit. All the fights on the outset were just crap to look at. But a lot of them were fun scraps. Lando Venata taking on Darius Flores. Finally, Darius Flores stemmed out in this matchup and got the win over Lando. I don't know what Lando was doing before. The guy was super inactive. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is like his last fight on his UFC contract he needed to take. Maybe he's off to bare knuckle. I don't know. He looked okay in round 1. In round 2, I'm pretty sure his rib is broke or he got injured in there. But Darius Flores, who would have expected it, was not on my bingo card for the big 2026. Darius Flores to pick up a win. Alice Pereira taking on Haley Cohen. What a knockout. Crazy knockout. These women MMA fights are getting better weekly. Like, Alexia Grasso got probably the most brutal brutal MMA finish ever, let alone in the women's division last week. And now you get Alice Pereira landing that nice big knee on Haley Cohen. Great win for her. By the way, she isn't Pereira's sister. I've seen people talking about that. Asmat Bakoev, let's get this guy to the UFC. He loses to Tresean Gore by guillotine. I did say that going into this matchup that Tresean Gore's got good takedown defense and you have to be careful of that guillotine. He's got the guillotine of like a Chris Duncan. You know what I mean? These random guys, they pick up some good things, and Tresean Gore's mastered the guillotine. Asmat Bakoev, I really thought he would have won this fight. I thought he was looking okay. Although Tresean Gore's having a lot more success on the feet than I thought he would have in this matchup. And then he ends up choking Asmat Bakoev out cold. Didn't see that coming. Great win for Tresean Gore. Tresean Gore and Darius Flores are getting the wins in the UFC in the big 2026. Buy a lottery ticket. Then we've got Diona Barboza taking on Melissa Gatto. Barboza tries the Randy Orton punt kick Gatto in the head in their matchup, and then Gatto passes out, pretends she's knocked out like Rodolfo Bellato style against Paul Craig. This fight, it was okay. There's not really much to rant and rave about. And then we've got Kai Kamara III. He beat Dakota Hope. I picked Dakota Hope to win this matchup. It was a split decision. Kamaka III, he definitely won this matchup. He's been doing a bit of work on the regional scene as well, coming into this fight. And I thought he lost the first round, but in rounds 2 and 3, I thought he done the better work and deserved to win this fight. Overall, this was a fun fight now. Nothing to rant and rave about. Also, Tatsuro Taira versus Joshua Vance being moved to UFC 3. I can't remember the numbers of it, but it's Hamza versus Sean Strickland. So UFC 327 looks significantly worse. But Yuri Prohaska will still KO Carl Solberg and right the wrong and fix the light heavyweight division. Let's go for that. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I appreciate all the support, and I'll see you all again in the next one.